Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm Peter Fitton, and I'm drama director of the Curtain Theatre in Rochdale. I've been for about the last year or so, and I'm responsible for arranging the seasons ahead of plays and appointing directors, arranging casts, and occasionally directing as well.
Thank you very much, Peter. Can you please tell me what it's like to be a theatre director?
Well, I think I'd say before, apart from anything else, quite a lot of stress on you, because you've got, such as with this production of Macbeth, a cast of 22 people all looking to you for some sort of inspiration. So I think it does take a lot of pre-prep to ensure that you arrive pretty well prepared.
How much preparation did you have for Macbeth then?
I probably did in the region of about 4 or 5 weeks preparation beforehand, looking at the text, having to think about it, boning up on the notes. I have seen the play a number of times, probably about 6 or 7 times at least, maybe more, at places like the National Theatre or the Royal Shakespeare Company. And maybe, it's a little bit like a magpie came along and pinched a bit from one and selected a bit from another and was influenced by a third. But it's not a play sometimes that I think has been very satisfactorily done. Sometimes it's a director's play thing, and they brought some strange concepts to bear on it. They've asked about with it, I suppose, the phrases, because they want to prove their directorial credentials.
Can you describe to me who your influences are? Any practitioners or other theatre directors?
I've seen many a vivid production, sometimes which has worked against the text, I think, but has been entertaining in itself. But I wanted to go for something pretty direct and tell the story in an honest, straightforward way. A lot of people were asking me, are you going to be doing it in traditional costume, which I thought we ought to do, since the last time we did it was 60 years ago, and 1954.
Wow.
And I thought first time we've done in ages a Shakespeare tragedy, and I thought we owed it to the clientele to tell it as vividly but as straightforwardly as we could, and not to emulate some of these directors at Stratford who were just aiming to make a big splash and to garner the headlines by setting Merchant of Venice or something like that in a Las Vegas casino, instead of tradition. I think it behoves us, because we're doing it at a certain level, not on a national level, to perhaps get it across to the clientele as best we can and as directly as we can.
Okay, can you give us the name of any, who's your favourite practitioner is or director? Anyone like Brecht or anyone like that?
Well, Brecht was, as a director, was a bit before my time. I think he died the year after I was born. So, but I mean, people like there's a very notable director who always does come out with a bit of an off-the-wall type approach. It's a guy called Rupert Gould.
Never heard of him.
He's directing at Stratford. He notably did a very good Tempest with Sir Patrick Stewart in it as Prospero. But he set it in polar regions instead of the usual Mediterranean. So it was some weird, but he carried it all the way along. He had it set on a ship that was foundering at the beginning, which it starts off with a shipwreck, but you could see it all through a porthole, and it was like a liner, like a steel-hulled ship, not some Elizabethan galleon or whatever. And that there was some fantastic monkeying around with the text, and I like that original approach. But I thought in this case, if we put on a Macbeth where the banquet was a cocktail party, and they were all in lounge suits, that the audience would feel shortchanged in some way. That they don't see it very often. Some of them, and I've been taking a poll every night to see how many out of our 100 or so audience has ever actually seen it before, and they're regularly sort of 20% of them, 20-25% have perhaps never seen it before in any form. So I think we've got to make it clear if we do nothing else.
Exactly, I like that. Can you describe to me what you think the differences are between film and theatre?
Well, you've got a massive crew of people in a film, haven't you, and probably years setting it all up, whereas it's probably a matter of weeks in the average theatre production, even at the highest level. technicians. If you look at the credits of a film afterwards, it can be like 200 people or more. Even on indie productions, there can be 100 or more, I would say. I don't know a great deal about film, I'm just a great fan of it, but you see other credits spooling, don't you? And I think you're talking about it on a much bigger scale, certainly than somewhere like this, where in many ways I always think we're rather winging it. It depends on people working hard, and a few people devoting themselves to it, like Adrian doing the lighting.
Oh yeah.
You know, he spent many an hour in this theatre, but it can't be compared with something where you're doing even a small indie British film, where even fighting for finance can take years before they actually get down to a 16-week shoot, and it's all intense activity all day. Here, let's face it, we've done it with about 20 rehearsals in 6 weeks, and we come up with a credible piece of work, I think. But no, it's not to be compared really with the dictates of cinema, I think.
I get you. Can you also tell me if you think theatre can compete with film?
Yeah, I don't see why not. They're two different areas. Often you get lots of bleeding from one to another these days. With you got to have a starry name, perhaps at the Royal Exchange in Manchester in a production. Somebody like Sharon Jones that's just been, Orlando. Bring her in so that they've got a name there that people will bother leaving the telly and come and have a look at them in drama. But I much prefer. I think after starting off being a film buff, I much prefer the theatre these days. I do go probably at least once a fortnight, probably once a week, somewhere
around Manchester. Yeah.
Around Manchester, I do go occasionally to London, and I go and see just about everything in the Stratford season, because there's some original stuff coming up that you wouldn't get the chance to see in the provinces. But I think a film you can go and see any number of times, and it's always the same.
Yeah.
If you go and see a theatrical production, if you went, say, 3 times to see Orlando, I'm sure it would be different every night.
Yeah.
I mean, they need to make it different sometimes in that they get bored, let's face it. They've just done one take, or you can't have any number of takes in a film, but if you're bedding in for a 6-week or, if it's Stratford, sometimes 6-month run in repertory, then you've got to try and bring the changes a bit, I think.
Okay, man. And what do you prefer then? So you prefer film or theatre? So you said you used to love film.
I now prefer, I would say, theatre.
But why? Like, what's changed your mind?
Because I don't think there's anything to beat, sitting as close as I am to you and seeing the detail of a performance. Now you can see that in a film, but I don't think there are enough intelligent films. I go looking for intelligent theatre.
Yeah.
I don't mind the odd mass popular entertainment like a musical or something like that, but I go looking to see sort of reflections of life and that type of thing, and you don't get that enough in the cinema these days. It's turning, to my mind,
horror and
into
stuff, isn't it?
horror, whatever, excess, where people are, it doesn't reflect real life. It's just more like a video game.
Yeah.
The latest Amazing Spider-Man film that's coming out, I just saw a trailer for that this week, and it just looks like a video game. It just ridiculous, implausible things happening, and it's quite thrilling, all right, for the current generation. But I just like to see something. I'm getting older. I like to see a reflection of
real life,
lives and emotion and people. The latest Born I went to see this week at Shaw at Crompton Playhouse 2. I thought because it was about robots and androids and that type of thing, that it wasn't in his usual territory. It was which is usually about couples and humanity and people getting along together and failing to do so, and all the conflict you get there.
Yeah.
There's too much. I don't know. Sounds old-fashioned, but I go looking for things like Wes Anderson, that's just done that Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh yeah.
Great style to it, magnificent, almost theatrical style to it.
A lot of detail.
The art direction is bloody brilliant, and an unusual, quirky story. I like that type of indie film. Or quite a lot of foreign films. I go to Edinburgh Bridge Picture House a lot because it's not as expensive as going into Manchester, but you can probably see every 2 or 3 days we'll have a new film on, and often an indie type film, which is my sort of bag really.
Thank you very much, Peter. You're a star.